American Airlines planning to take air travel to supersonic speeds after it placed an order for 20 supersonic planes from Boom. Remember the Concorde? Okay, so now there's this company called Boom. The Overture aircraft, as it's called, can carry 65 to 80 passengers and fly at twice the speed of commercial planes, up to 1,304 miles per hour. Just a few miles less than what the old Concorde could do. Boom expects to roll out its first supersonic model in 2025 and says it will run on sustainable aviation fuel to help airlines cut emissions. Speaking of which, any moment now, President Biden is about to sign the $750 billion Inflation Reduction Act into law, which includes tax breaks and incentives for sustainable aviation fuels and $250 million in competitive grants to develop the sustainable jet fuel alternatives. Delta Airlines working hard to reduce carbon emissions, announcing a new venture with aviation partners Boeing to install PB's winglets to cut down on jet fuel consumption. But as summer weekend travelers still face nightmares and flightmares, what is the top priority right now with airline CEOs? Joining us now in a Fox Business exclusive, Delta Airlines CEO Ed Bastian. Ed, I'm very geeked out about this Overture supersonic plane. You have to tell me, is Delta looking at possibly investing in these planes at some point?
We're not ready to make that announcement yet, Liz. We've been talking to Boom over the last couple of years. Candidly, I have a lot more questions than answers still that need to be resolved. Until we're confident that we could actually generate a reliable return from the aircraft, we're not. That's not where we're investing.
Well, we talk about the sustainable fuel that this company says it's running on. You at Delta have been forging ahead with this. We know that the president is about to speak about the Inflation Reduction Act being signed into law, and there are some tax breaks involving that. Where do you, as you look out on the horizon, see sustainable jet fuel going? And does that mean that things will be less expensive for travelers, or will there be some type of fuel surcharge? I'm just trying to get a read on how you view this.
Well, we're thrilled that the president is signing that legislation into law to be able to provide some meaningful tax credits and incentives to blenders, to folks in the energy community to continue to invest in sustainable aviation fuels. Because today the problem airlines have is that we can't afford the difference, the gap between jet fuel, which is at already at an historically high level, and what the cost of a sustainable aviation gallon per fuel is 3 to 5 times that. So we need to ensure the government can come together to bring the energy community, the user community, which would be the airlines, together, and we can both work and develop new sustainable technologies and standards. We're committed at Delta to having, by the end of this decade, 10% of our fuel be of sustainable form, but we have a long, long way to go to get there.
Yeah, I get it. And we've been hearing about sustainable jet fuel for quite some time. So as we continue to watch that part of it, let's broaden this discussion to all of the challenges that the airline faces, and particularly these flightmares. Tell me how Delta, in, let's just say, the past couple of weeks, because we know what happened Father's Day weekend back in June, but how in the past couple of weeks you've been adjusting things and trying to figure out pilot shortages and employee shortages.
Well, the industry has had a challenging spring, a challenging summer, as you fairly report. At Delta, May and June was a very tough period for us as demand just took off. Isn't even the right analogy. We wound up seeing the highest and busiest volumes that we'd ever seen in our history from a relatively low position just a couple months earlier. July came out much better than June on reliability. At Delta, we pride ourselves. We lead our industry and have for many years in reliability. We're back on top in July. And in August, we're doing well as well. Every month going forward continues to get better. I'll give you a stat from the past weekend. From the last Friday through Monday, we operated over 20,000 flights worldwide at Delta. We had 15 cancellations in total on those 20,000 flights, so a 99.9% reliability. That's what customers should expect from us.
Okay, people are very quick to blame the airlines, and I get it, I can see that, but They're not the only issue here. Can you give us some clarity on the air traffic controller shortage? Because that became a huge flashpoint just a couple of months ago, did it not? And is there any clarity you can give us on how they're certainly working to get rid of that logjam?
Well, ATC is encountering many of the same issues that the airlines are encountering. People retire. The time it takes to get new controllers trained is actually much longer than even what it takes for our pilots or some of our own employees to get them trained and into position. And they operate in a very, very congested airspace, particularly up in the Northeast, where you have in New York, you've got Newark, you've got JFK, you've got LaGuardia, all competing for the same airspace. So you need the highest quality, the most credible controllers on the job there, and it takes time to get them in position. So yeah, ATC is a bit of a challenge, but candidly, all aspects of it, the ecosystem have been challenged. TSA and security have had challenges. Our vendors and our concourses have had challenges getting the concessions opened, full time the way our customers need it. But we're making a lot of progress, and at Delta, I'm thrilled with the work our people are doing.
It's stunning to me that all throughout my years as an adult, people were dying to work in the airline industry. Now there's a desperate need for the jobs. You got to reinvent the wheel in certain ways. I know that at some air shows, airlines are going on the ground and trying to recruit people who are aviation fanatics, which is a great idea, certainly. But what specifically is Delta doing to find more people? And I know training takes a long time, but to get more people interested in being flight attendants and pilots and ground workers?
We're having no problem at all, Liz. In fact, since the start of last year, we've hired over 20,000 people into our company because we had a very large early retirement in the summer of 2020 when COVID first dawned on us. So it's taken the time to get all of that experience into the 20,000 new team members that have joined us. But we have new pilots, flight attendants, technologists, mechanics, reservationists, airport workers across the board, and it's exciting because you have a lot of new faces, a lot of new folks entering the business. People do want to come to work at Delta. Delta is seen as the top of the food chain in terms of the quality of the airline experience and as an employer, and we've not had any problems at all.
Can you also give us a sense of how, as an airline CEO, you wrap your mind around issues that you cannot control? The front page of the Wall Street Journal yesterday, this big article about Florida and how Orlando's airport and some of these airports on the East Coast in Florida are just facing all kinds of issues, that flights can't take off because there are rocket ships that are going up, or, you've got hurricanes coming. How do you get your arms around that kind of problem and sort it out and detangle it before it becomes another flightmare?
Well, you're right. There are things that are outside of our control, but the issues you mentioned that were highlighted around the Jacksonville Air Traffic Control Center, those aren't new. We've been dealing with those for years. May have come new on the scene for certain people that have highlighted because of COVID. They had a lot of people retire, and the length of time it takes to get people trained into those jobs is extensive. But we understand the environment in which we're operating. At Delta, we've been the most cautious about bringing capacity in our flights back. We're only about 85% restored as an airline, despite record-breaking demand. We've been careful, not outstripping our capabilities, and that's the way you try to do your best to keep things within your control.
I did see that you recently cut 5 regional routes, Moline, Illinois, Fort Wayne, and yet you added some, and I see a headline today that you're going to be having some Seoul, Korea flights going back and forth a couple of times a day. When do you think you will be back up to full capacity, or at least where you were in 2019?
I hope by next summer that we will have the capability to be back, certainly domestically and hopefully internationally as well. It really depends on us getting all of those resources trained and experienced and into the right seat in the right category or the right job. I would say by the latter part of this year, over the next few months, we're going to start to turn the hiring down and start to turn the production up, because that's also what we need to do, because we're now pretty close to where we need to be in terms of total number of employees, so actually mirroring where we were in 2019. And when you have as many people being trained, it absorbs an enormous amount of energy from your existing colleagues, people that are having to train them, people that are having to check them on the line, people that are having to hire and recruit. And when you can turn that down and turn all those resources back into the operation, it's going to give us tremendous new capability to actually operate the airline at the full utilization level that we look to be. The flight changes you mentioned, there's always some changes going on. The reason some of those small markets were reduced because we couldn't get pilots in the small 50-jet seat. We're in the process of eliminating 50-jet seat entirely from our fleet and upgrading that to 76-seat regional jets. And that's a little bit of the transition that you're seeing.
Yeah, the transitions obviously are a work in progress, especially since the pandemic. But is there a point in time, Ed, where you foresee profitability stringing along several quarters without any noise from losses?
Well, no question about it. We delivered a very strong profit in the second quarter. It was $1.2 billion, a 12% operating margin. Our forecast for the third quarter, our guidance that we provided is more of the same. And I would anticipate as we go into the winter, we're going to be looking at some strong profits. The biggest variability we've had on our profitability has been the price of fuel. It peaked for us a couple of months ago, and it's starting to edge down, as you know. That's going to be another tailwind for us. But the demand is phenomenal. And I know I get questions all the time of the health of the consumer and how long is this going to continue. Consumers want to travel. And even though there was a moment here this spring and summer where people were able, for the first time in over 2 years, get back out, it came nowhere close to quenching that thirst. And I think right through the fall, winter, into next year, you're going to continue to see really high levels of demand for air travel. And I'm pleased that we're going to be able to provide that service to them.
Well, you're providing LA to Tahiti now, so I kind of like that idea. Thank you very much.
You want to be on that flight? We can arrange that.
I want to be on that. Thank you very much.
We'll send you where to book.
Okay, I'm getting the bikini now. Ed, thank you very much. Ed Bastian, exclusively speaking here on the Claman Countdown for Delta Airlines. We'll be watching it. And one of the things that Ed just said is that he's actually thrilled that the president is about to sign that bill into law, the Inflation Reduction Act. He is speaking right now, and he is saying that he will sign it in a moment, and it is extraordinarily important for the country. You know, there's been some discussion about whether it really will reduce inflation. Lots of questions about that. But we are going to take you straight to the White House right after the break for instant reaction.